My daughter took my retirement money and went on a beach vacation, leaving me at home with nothing to eat. She came back suntanned and happy, thinking I would beg her for help. But when she opened the refrigerator to prepare dinner, she screamed in horror at what she saw inside. A few days earlier, I had found what she hid in her room. It was a truly malicious plan. She wanted to erase me from her life, a red folder containing the real conspiracy. If you think what I found in the refrigerator was shocking, wait until I open the red folder. Comment and let me know where you're watching from. This story is spreading faster than I expected. The scream came at exactly 12:47 p.m. on a Thursday in mid-November, slicing through the quiet of my Hawthorne kitchen like a handsaw through green wood. I didn't flinch. I'd been waiting for it. Chloe had burst through my front door 3 minutes earlier, dragging 2 enormous suitcases behind her, the kind with designer monograms that cost more than my monthly pension. Her skin was the color of expensive cognac, burnished to a glow that only comes from lying beside a pool while someone else pays the bill. She wore white linen pants that probably cost what I used to charge for a custom bookshelf, and oversized sunglasses, pushed up into hair that had been professionally highlighted sometime between her departure and return. God, that flight was torture. She announced to no one in particular, letting the suitcases crash against the hardwood I'd installed with my own hands 40 years ago. They ran out of the lunch option I wanted. Can you believe it? First class, and they're serving chicken. I sat at my kitchen table, a cup of Darjeeling cooling between my palms. The porcelain was thin enough to see light through one of the few pieces I hadn't sold yet. I took a slow sip and said nothing. She kicked off her shoes, some strappy thing with red soles, and padded into the kitchen, already scrolling through her phone. I'm starving. What's for lunch? Please tell me you made something decent. I've been eating resort food for 2 weeks, and I just want something real. I set down my cup. The clink of china on wood was the only sound in the room. Welcome home, Chloe, I said. She glanced up, startled as if she'd forgotten I could speak. Oh yeah, hi Dad. She waved her phone vaguely in my direction. So, lunch. I think you'll find something in the refrigerator, I said, gesturing to the old Frigidaire humming in the corner. Help yourself. She was already moving, yanking open the door with the impatience of someone who'd spent 14 days having every whim catered to. Then she screamed. It wasn't a horror movie scream. Not exactly. It was higher pitched than that. Sharper. The sound a person makes when their brain can't quite process what their eyes are seeing, when reality has suddenly become negotiable. She stumbled backward, one hand flying to her mouth, the other still gripping the refrigerator door. Her phone clattered to the floor. What? She choked out. What the hell? I see you found dinner, I said, taking another sip of tea. Her head whipped toward me, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing like a trout on a dock. Dad? What? How did you? Where did you? I folded my hands on the table the way I used to when teaching an apprentice about wood grain. Calm, patient, letting the silence do the teaching. Before you ask any more questions, I said, I think you need to understand something. You need to know what you did to me, Chloe. What you've been planning to do. She was still staring at the open refrigerator, her tanned face going pale beneath the expensive glow. I didn't sit down, I said, not loudly. But she sat. I let the moment stretch, watching her eyes dart between me and the refrigerator's glowing interior, her mind scrambling to make sense of what couldn't be possible. To understand what you're looking at, I said slowly, you need to know what happened while you were gone. What you left me with. What you took. Her mouth opened to protest, but I raised one finger, a carpenter's finger, calloused and crooked, from 50 years of holding things together, and she went silent. It started 14 days ago, I said, leaning back in my chair. A Tuesday morning that smelled like rain and betrayal. The rain hadn't started yet that Tuesday morning, but I could smell it coming, that peculiar metallic scent Portland gets when the sky is about to open up. I woke at 6:30 to the sound of drawers slamming in the room above mine. Chloe's room, the one that used to be hers when she was 12 before she moved out, moved back, moved out again. The room I'd repainted 3 times to match whatever phase she was going through. I pulled on my robe and made my way downstairs, joints creaking like old floorboards. The coffee maker was already gurgling. I'd said it the night before, same as I had every night for the past 40 years. Routine, structure, the things that hold a life together when the joinery starts to fail. She appeared at the bottom of the stairs like a storm front, dragging a suitcase that looked big enough to hold a body. Another one waited by the door. Her hair was pulled back tight, her face bare of makeup, but somehow already armored. "Morning, Dad," she said, not quite looking at me. "Coffee ready." "Always is." I poured her a cup, added the oat milk she preferred, handed it to her. "Going somewhere." "Vegas." She said it like it was nothing, like she was running to the grocery store. 2 weeks. "I need this, Dad. Work has been insane. I'm completely burned out." I didn't ask about work. I'd learned not to. The details changed every time. Some vague complaint about her boss, her co-workers, a toxic environment. She worked remotely for a marketing firm, or maybe it was consulting now. I could never quite pin it down. 2 weeks, I repeated, wrapping both hands around my own mug. The ceramic was warm, solid, real. Maybe 3, if I extend. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through something. Flights, probably. Hotels. I'm meeting some friends out there. They've got a whole thing planned. Pool parties, clubs, shows, the works. The words came out smooth, practiced, like she'd been rehearsing. "That sounds expensive," I said carefully. "It's fine." He waved a hand, dismissive. "I've got it covered mostly." A pause. She sat down her coffee and turned to face me, her expression shifting into something softer, something I recognized from childhood, from every time she'd wanted something she knew I couldn't afford. "Actually, Dad, could I borrow your pension card just in case? You know how those ATMs can be in casinos. Sometimes they're down, or they charge crazy fees. I'll only use it if I absolutely have to." My fingers tightened around the mug. "Cliff, that's my social security. That's what I live on." "I know, Dad." Her voice took on that wounded edge, the one that made me feel like I'd accused her of something terrible. "God, you don't trust me. After everything I've done for you, I let you live here. I take care of bills. This is my house," I said quietly. "You know what I mean?" She stepped closer and I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive. "I've always paid you back before, haven't I? Remember when I borrowed money for that certification course? Paid you back in 3 months. I'm not asking for a handout, Dad. I'm asking for a backup plan." She had paid me back that time and the time before. Small amounts always returned. Eventually, I looked at her face, my daughter's face, so I barely recognized it anymore, beneath the professional eyebrows and the expression that never quite reached her eyes. I reached for my wallet on the counter, slid the card out, placed it in her waiting palm. "Thank you." She kissed my cheek, quick and dry. "There's oatmeal in the pantry. You'll be fine." "I deserve this, Dad. You understand that, right?" Piuba honked. Outside, she grabbed her bags, and then she was gone. A blur of motion and noise, and that overwhelming perfume. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. I stood in the sudden silence, the scent of gardenias choking the air. Outside, through the front window, I watched the red taillights disappear into the gathering rain. 3 days without her, and I'd learned how thin the margin really was. The first day, I finished the leftover chicken dry breast meat I'd been saving. The second day, a can of tomato soup stretched over 2 meals. By Friday morning, my stomach wasn't growling anymore. It had gone silent, a hollow, acidic ache that felt like something inside me had started eating itself. I shuffled to the pantry. The shelves stared back, mostly bare, and they're on the top shelf. The glass jar Chloe had mentioned, labeled oats, in Martha's careful handwriting from 20 years ago. I pulled it down, to light. Inside, maybe 10 oats rattled around the bottom like old teeth covered in grey dust. I unscrewed the lid and stared. Not enough to feed a sparrow. Martha used to stand in this kitchen teaching me her mother's potato soup. "A man needs to know how to feed himself," she'd said, guiding my hands. "You'll never know when you'll be alone." 11 years gone, and I still hadn't learned. The shame came hot, flushing up my neck. 72 years old, couldn't keep myself fed in my own house. A house I'd built half the interior of with my own hands. I started searching, not for food, I knew there wasn't any. For money, loose change, anything. Couch cushions, lint, and a button. The ceramic jar on the bookshelf, empty except for a 2019 receipt. Under the floor mat, nothing. My gaze drifted toward the stairs, toward her room. I never went into Chloe's room when she was gone. Respect her privacy, even when she didn't respect mine. But I was hungry, and she'd taken everything. I climbed slowly, hand on the rail. Her door half opened the room beyond. A disaster close. Armchairs, makeup scattered, papers piled everywhere. The air smelled stale like old perfume. I stepped inside, feeling like a trespasser in my own house. The wastebasket near her desk overflowed. Crumpled receipts, tissue paper, an empty nail polish bottle, and there a thick ball of paper wedged against the side. I pulled it out, smoothed. It was shaking hands. Bellagio Hotel and Casino. Reservation confirmation, 2 weeks. Suite upgrade. Resort fees. Spa package. Show tickets. Total $6,500. I read it twice, 3 times. $6,500. Nearly 3 months of my pension and Social Security combined. I sank onto her unmade bed, the paper trembling in my grip. While I'd been scraping the bottom of a soup can, she'd been booking suites and spa days. While I'd been rationing crackers, she'd been planning shows in restaurants and poolside lounging. I looked around her room. The clutter, the carelessness, the expensive shoes kicked into corners. Then beyond, through the door at the hallway lined with furniture I'd kept polished for decades. The antique credenza, my grandfather's wall clock, the Persian rug no one could walk on with shoes. A museum of things I'd preserved for her future. Her inheritance while I starved in the present. I thought of my workshop in the basement. The tools hanging on pegboard. Some older than Chloe, some older than me. My father's hand plane. The dovetail saw I'd used on every major project for 40 years. The router table I'd built myself in 1997. Tools weren't just metal and wood. They were hours, days, years of a man's life compressed into objects you could hold, but you could also let them go. I folded the receipt carefully and slipped it into my shirt pocket right over my heart. I spent 40 years building things for other people, I said to the empty room. Maybe it's time I dismantled something. The receipt stayed in my pocket as I walked back downstairs. My hand pressed against it like a wound I was trying to keep from bleeding out. The living room waited in the afternoon light, dust motes drifting through the windows, settling on surfaces I had polished every Sunday for longer than Cielo had been alive. I stood in the doorway and looked at it all with different eyes. The oak sideboard against the far wall. I'd carved it the month Chloe was born, working through the nights, when Martha couldn't sleep, when the baby's crying filled the house. I'd inlaid Martha's initials in the corner, hidden where only someone looking would find them. On top of it, my grandfather's pocket watch under a glass dome. He'd carried it through World War II, through France, and Germany brought it home and passed it to my father, who passed it to me. The crystal face was cracked from where it had stopped, a piece of shrapnel in 1944. Family legends said it had saved his life. The Persian rug beneath my feet, burgundy and cream, hand knotted. Martha and I had picked it out together in 1993. Spend more than we should have laughed about eating ramen for a month to afford it. She loved the way it made the room feel like something out of a movie. I'd kept all of it for Chloe, for her future, for the home she'd build someday, the family she'd raise. But she didn't want them. She wanted me gone. The thought settled cold and clean like a chisel finding the grain. I walked to the stack of newspapers by the armchair. Chloe always complained about them, called them fire hazards, told me to throw them out. But I liked paper, liked the weight of it, liked knowing what had happened in the world beyond my porch. I sorted through until I found the one from 2 weeks back. Page 12, classifies, and they're circled in pencil from some idle moment. I couldn't even remember Frederick Penn. Antiques and estates, honest appraisals, house calls. I'd circle it without knowing why. Maybe some part of me had already known this day was coming. The phone hung on the kitchen wall, a rotary model, cream-colored, the cord twisted from 40 years of use. Martha had wanted to replace it with something cordless. I never had her picked up the receiver. It was heavier than I remembered. My hands shook as I dialed the mechanism, clicking with each rotation. The sound felt loud in the empty house, mechanical and final. 1 ring, 2, 3. Frederick Penn speaking. The voice was smooth, professional, patient. Mr. Penn, my voice, came out rough, unused. I cleared my throat. My name is Raymond Mercer. Do you buy antique woodworking tools? I do, Mr. Mercer. Interest sharpened his tone. What period are we discussing? Early 1900s. My grandfather's and mine. I've maintained them for 40 years. A pause. Condition. Museum quality. I'd need to see them in person. Papers rustled in the background. When would be convenient? Tomorrow morning, I said. 9 o'clock. I'll be there. May I have the address? I gave him the Hawthorne Street. The house number Martha had painted on the mailbox in cheerful yellow. Mr. Mercer. Penn's voice gentled slightly. I should mention family heirlooms are often difficult to part with. Are you certain about this? I looked at the workshop door across the hall. Closed. Dark. Waiting. I'm certain, I said. I hung up before he could ask anything else. The workshop door opened with a creak that sounded like an apology. I flipped the light switch, and the basement stairs appeared below me. Steep wooden, descending into the smell of sawdust and linseed oil. My tools were waiting in the dim fluorescent glow. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 o'clock Saturday morning. Frederick Penn stood on my porch, early 60s. Grey vest over a pressed shirt, leather satchel worn soft at the edges. Rain threatened behind him. He had the kind of face that had seen a lifetime of transactions and still managed to look kind. Mr. Mercer, he extended a hand, firm but careful. Thank you for calling. I led him through the house and down the narrow stairs to the basement workshop. Fluorescent lights buzzed on, bathing everything in their cold honesty. Penn stopped at the bottom step. His eyes moved over the pegboard walls, the workbench, the tools hanging in precise rows. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he sat down, his satchel, and approached the bench like a man entering a church. He picked up my grandfather's hand plane. First the Stanley No. 4 from 1910, rosewood handle worn smooth by 3 generations. He turned it over, examined the blade, the adjustment wheel, the maker's mark still crisp. Extraordinary, he murmured. He moved from tool to tool, the dovetail, saw the chisels, the brace and bits set in their wooden case. He made furniture with these 40 years. Union carpenter, I said. An injury ended it. These belong in a museum. They belong with someone who used them. Penn looked at me. Then the way an appraiser looks when he's valuing more than objects. I can offer 10,000. Something tightened in my chest. I thought of my daughter Chloe, never accepting the first offer. 12. He studied my face. Whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. 10,000, he said. But I'll require a notary. I've seen too many families torn apart over things like this. When your daughter asks where her grandfather's tools went, you'll have paper, the way he said. Well, that's exactly what I want. He made a call. Helen Crawford, notary public, arrived within the hour. A brisk woman with a stamp and a ledger. We signed papers at the kitchen table. She'll notarized every page, took her fee, and left. Penn counted out the cash, $100 bills, crisp and heavy. The weight of it felt like something I'd forgotten existed. Power. He loaded the tools into his van with the care of a curator. I watched from the porch as he drove away, taking 40 years of my working life with him. The workshop was empty now. Pegboard shadows where the tools had hung. Sawdust in corners that would never be swept. I felt nothing but relief. That afternoon, I walked past the grocery outlet, where I usually shopped, the yellow discount signs, the tired produce. I kept going. Zupan's market sat 3 blocks over. I'd passed it for years without entering. Too expensive, too polished. Not for people like me. I pushed open the door. The air smelled like fresh bread and possibility. Bright lights, clean displays, everything priced like it knew its worth. What can I get for you? Sir Emma asked from the deli counter. Half a pound of pushcutto, I said, reading the label like I belonged there. Aged white cheddar, a sourdough loaf, Kalamata olives, and a 1/4 pound of smoked salmon. She wrapped and weighed with practiced ease. Special occasion, something like that. The total came to $127, 2 weeks of groceries at the old store. I handed over the cash without blinking. Rain started as I walked home, cold drops mixing with something hot behind my eyes that I refused to name. Inside, I laid everything out on the table, the prosciutto translucent, the bread still warm, the cheese sharp and rich. I hadn't cooked with care in years, hadn't paid attention to what I ate, or whether it mattered. Tonight, it mattered. I made myself a plate, and sat at my own table like a guest in my own home. Sunday evening, I pan-seared the salmon in butter, the way Martha used to, letting the skin crisp until it crackled. Toasted the sourdough until it smelled like wheat fields. Arranged the olives in a small ceramic bowl, not plastic, not straight from the jar. I set the table properly. A cloth, napkin from the drawer, where Martha had kept them folded for holidays, a real plight, the kind with weight to it. A wine glass filled with water because I didn't have wine, but I had standards. I sat down at 7 o'clock and cut into the salmon. The first bite exploded across my tongue. Salt and fat, and something I'd almost forgotten existed. Flavor. Real, honest-to-God flavor, not the grey taste of canned soup or stale crackers. The fish flaked perfectly buttery and rich, and I closed my eyes against the sudden sting behind them. Martha used to say, "Food is love." Ray, don't ever forget that. I'd forgotten. Or maybe I just stopped believing I deserved to be loved. I ate slowly, chewing each bite, deliberately tasting every element. The crunch of the bread, the brine of the olives, the sharpness of the cheese. My body woke up with each mouthful like something that had been asleep for years was finally stretching, remembering what it felt like to be fed, to be human. The phone rang. The sound shattered the quiet, harsh and demanding the rotary bell loud enough to rattle in its housing. I stared at it for 3 rings, fork suspended halfway to my mouth. Then I set down the fork and answered, "Hey Dad." Cliff's voice hit me like a wall of sound behind her slot machines, chiming music, thumping people, laughing too loud. "How's it going back there?" "Fine," I said. She laughed high and bright and lubricated by something expensive. "Still living off that oatmeal, huh? Pro tip, add more water. It stretches further." Old grandma trick. Someone screamed in the background. "Blackjack. Oh my God. You should see this, sweet Dad. Marble, everything. The jacuzzi tub is bigger than your bathroom. Are having champagne delivered at 9 o'clock. The good stuff, not the grocery store crap." I said nothing, just stood there in my kitchen phone, pressed to my ear, looking at my plate of salmon and bread. "They're doing a Celine Dion tribute show tomorrow night," she continued, barely pausing for breath. "Front row seats, $200 a pop, but totally worth it. Oh, and I got a facial today. Volcanic mud or something. My skin is glowing." I could hear cards shuffling, chips clinking, the synthetic waterfall sound of a slot machine paying out. Anyway, I got to run blackjack tables calling my name. "Try not to run up the electric bill while I'm gone." "Okay, I'll have to pay it when I get back." She laughed again like it was a joke we shared. "Love you, bye." The line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver, listening to the dial tone hum in my ear like a flatline. Slowly I hung up, looked down at my plate, at the salmon I'd bought, with money from my grandfather's tools, at the bread still warm, the olives glistening with oil, the careful arrangement of a meal I'd made for myself. Something shifted inside me. Not hurt. I was past that. Not even anger. Something colder, clearer. Purpose. I set my napkin on the table, pushed back my chair, and stood. Walked down the hall toward Chloe's room, the door still half open where I had left it yesterday. After finding the Bellagio receipt, the mess inside visible even from here, clothes, papers, the detritus of a life lived without consequences. I stood in the doorway and looked at it all with completely new eyes. "What else did you lie about?" I said to the empty room. Then I stepped inside. I stepped into Chloe's room at 8:30, the overhead light casting harsh shadows across the chaos, clothes draped over the chair like shed skin, makeup scattered across the vanity, lipsticks without caps, compacts cracked open, brushes caked with foundation, magazines piled on every surface. The air smelled stale like perfume left to rot. I'd always respected her privacy. Even when she lived here full-time, even when she moved back after her last breakup, I never entered without knocking, never searched, never pried. But standing there in the doorway, something had shifted. "I need to understand who my daughter really is," I said to the empty room. I started with the desk, sorted through the papers scattered across its surface, credit card bills with minimum payments circled in red, shopping receipts from stores I'd never heard of, a Cosmopolitan with 10 ways to get what you want on the cover. I opened the drawers carefully. The top one, pens, loose change, a tangled necklace. The second, all bank statements. Nothing unusual. I was about to close the third when I saw it, the corner of a red folder shoved beneath a stack of Vogues. I pulled it out, heavy, stuffed, full. I opened it. Discovery 1, the nursing home brochure. The glossy pamphlet sat on top, its cover photo, showing elderly people in wheelchairs parked in a fluorescent-lit hallway. Restful Meadows State Facility, affordable care for seniors. I remembered Mrs. Finley mentioning it months ago. I heard that place has problems with bed bugs, and the staff barely speaks English. The monthly cost was printed in bold: 2,800 staff, fumed option Medicaid accepted, the cheapest available, the worst available. Discovery 2, the power of attorney. Draft. The next document was thicker formal. General power of attorney, Principal Raymond Mercer, Agent Chloe Mercer, powers granted. Full authority to manage all property, sell real estate, make medical decisions, represent in all legal matters. A date was penciled in the margin, November 15th. I counted quickly. 3 days after she was due back from Vegas, a handwritten note, in Chloe's looping script, booked Dad's wellness check with Dr. Morrison same week. The quotation marks around wellness check made my stomach turn. Discovery 3, the calendar page, a page torn from her planner. The timeline laid out in bullet points and emoji. Nav 12. Return from Vegas, November 13th. Dr. M appointment. Get Dad's evaluation. Now 14. Meet lawyer. Finalize poor. No 15 sign poor. Notary. No 16. Tour. Restful Meadows with Dad. Don't tell him why. Nov 20. Move-in day. The emojis made it worse. Casual, breezy, like she was planning a vacation. Not the systematic dismantling of my life. 8 days. I had 8 days before the appointment. Before the fake evaluation, before she had me declared incompetent and locked away. Discovery 4. The printed email. The last document was an email printed, outdated 2 weeks ago, from CHLOEM 1986 @gmail.com to admissions, Restful Meadows. Org date, October 2 to 2 weeks before Vegas. Subject inquiry, Medicaid, bed availability body. Hi, my father 72, showing early signs of dementia, will be formally evaluated. Soon needs immediate placement once approved. Expected move in late November. Can you please hold a bed? Thanks, Chloe Mercer. I sat down on the edge of her unmade bed papers, spilling across my lap. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold them. Vision blurred, tears. Rage, maybe both. The truth crashed over me in a cold, relentless wave. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't even impatience for an inheritance. This was a plan, a schedule, a calendar, with emojis. She'd booked the nursing home bed before she took my pension card. Vegas wasn't spontaneous. It was her celebration, her last blowout before she destroyed me. Early signs of dementia, a bald-faced lie she planned to weaponize. In exactly 8 days, I'd be locked in a state facility that smelled like bleach and despair. She'd have my house, my belongings, my life. Martha's voice surfaced from memory, her last words before she died. Promise me you'll live, Ray. Don't just exist, live. I stood up slowly, the folder gripped tight in my fist. A new resolve formed, and cold, absolute, immovable. If Chloe wanted to erase me, she'd have to do it with witnesses, with documentation, with evidence that I was sound of mind and body when I made my choices. And I had 8 days to make sure she got nothing. I looked around her room at the chaos, the entitlement, the carelessness of someone who'd never had to fight for anything. You want it all, I said aloud. Fine, you'll get nothing. And I've got 8 days to make sure of it. At 9 o'clock Sunday night, I walked back to the kitchen phone. The red folder still gripped in my hand like evidence at a trial. I dialed Penn's number. Late, I knew, didn't care. He answered on the 3rd ring, voice cautious. Mr. Mercer, everything all right? Mr. Penn, my voice came out like steel on stone. You said you'd seen family disputes destroy good people. I need your help. A pause. I'm listening. Can you come back tomorrow morning? I want to sell everything. Everything. Every antique in this house. Furniture, rugs, clocks, silverware. All of it. A longer pause. I heard him breathing, thinking, Mr. Mercer, that's a very serious decision. Perhaps you should take some time. 2. I'm of sound mind, Mr. Penn, and I want it documented. Can you do it or not? I can do it. His voice firmed up. I'll bring the truck and a crew. 9:00 a.m. 9 a.m. I hung up. That night I didn't sleep. Walked through the house in darkness, looking at everything with new eyes. Each piece a memory of sacrifice, a ghost of Martha's presence, but also chains, anchors, museum pieces for a daughter who wanted me dead. At 9 Monday morning, Penn's truck pulled up with 2 young men, Tyler and Jake, both mid-20s, strong backs, and careful hands. I opened the door. Let's begin. The pocket watches went first. 5 of them, gold cases, intricate faces. Penn laid them out on tissue paper like sacred objects. $17,000 for the collection, he said quietly. My hands shook as I picked up my grandfather's, the one that had stopped shrapnel in 1944. He carried these through to world wars. He survived. So will I. The oak furniture, dining table, sideboard, 6 chairs, all carved by my own hands over decades. Tyler and Jake wrapped them in moving blankets, loaded them carefully. $15 million, Penn said. I ran my hand across the table one last time. I made this the week Chloe was born, carved her name underneath. She never looked once. The vinyl collection, jazz blues, rare original pressings, in pristine condition. Martha and I used to dance to them. Billie Holiday is unforgettable. Every anniversary, 43 times, until she couldn't dance anymore. $8,000, Penn said, boxing them with reverence. I didn't look back. A silver tea service, wedding gift from Martha's parents, never used. Her mother had said, save it for special occasions. 40 years I'd waited for an occasion special enough. Turns out survival was special enough. $12,000. The Persian rugs. 2 massive ones, intricate patterns, impossibly heavy. Tyler grunted as he rolled the first. Jesus, these weigh a ton. They've been weighing on me for 40 years, I said. $18,000 for the pair. Arthur Simmons arrived at noon, a different notary, this time older, with wire-rimmed glasses and a leather folio. Penn had insisted on a second witness, additional documentation. He notarized every bill of sale, every signature, every transaction. Made it legal, made it ironclad. Their total climbed $17,000, $32,000, $50,000, $68,000. By 3 o'clock, the final count, $80,000. Penn wrote the check, counted out some cash for immediate needs. He looked at me with something between respect and worry. Mr. Mercer, he set the check on the empty kitchen counter, the only surface left. Are you absolutely certain about this? This is your legacy, your history. I watched Jake carry out the last rug, rolled tight, hoisted on his shoulder. No, Mr. Penn, my legacy is standing up for myself. These are just objects. Objects can be replaced. Dignity can't. By 3:30, the house was empty. No furniture, no rugs, no decorations. Just bare. Wood floors, blank walls, an afternoon sunlight streaming through windows that suddenly seemed larger. I stood in the middle of the living room, the room where Chloe used to play as a child, where Martha and I had hosted Christmases, where I'd watched my life accumulate like sediment. Now nothing, just light pooling at my feet, and I felt lighter than I had in decades. The house used to be a museum. Now it was just a house. My house. I pulled the check from my pocket, looked at the number, $80,000, 3.5 years of pension, a lifetime of careful accumulation liquidated in 6 hours. I thought of Chloe's calendar. 8 days until the fake doctor's appointment. 8 days until she tried to erase me. I folded the check carefully and slipped it into my wallet. The house used to be a museum, I said to the empty room. Now it's just a house, my house, and I've got work to do. At 3 o'clock, the house echoed with emptiness. I sat at Martha's old MacBook, the one she'd taught me to use in her final months, patient through every fumbled keystroke. First priority, cleaning. I googled professional house cleaning Portland and called the first result. Sparkle, clean PDX. How can we help you? A woman's voice brought, I'll pay double your rate. A pause. We can have a crew of 3 there by 400. P.M. Mr. Mercer, Raymond Mercer, Hawthorne District. At 4 o'clock, Carol Wilson arrived with her crew, 2 younger women with industrial equipment. They moved through the empty house like surgeons, scrubbed floors until they gleamed, washed windows until light poured through unfiltered, wiped down every surface. The smell changed from dust and age to citrus and lavender. Everything felt new, reborn. While they worked, I opened the laptop again, searched gourmet food delivery Portland, culinary luxe, PDX, beautiful photos, descriptions that made my mouth water, prices that would have made me faint a week ago. I thought of Chloe's $6,500 Vegas trip. I'd spend $3,500 in one order. Shopping list: Dungeness crab, Oregon coast, $180, Wagyu beef, Japanese A5, $240, white truffle oil, Italian, $95, aged cheese collection, $160, Otetra caviar 4 Oz tin, 308. Dom Perignon, 2012, $450. Exotic fruit box, $120. Belgian chocolates, $85. Pacific oysters dozen, $150. Sourdough from Levain, $20. Pushed derma $65. Smoked salmon $95. Truffle olive oil $78. C. Salt caramels $42 or fresh figs $35. Total 3 net for ISB. Delivery 6 p.m. tonight. I clicked order. The confirmation chime sounded like freedom. At 6 o'clock, the cleaning crew finished. The house gleamed. I paid them and added generous tips. At 6:30, the doorbell rang. Tyler stood there, the same young man who'd moved my furniture that morning. His eyes widened. "Mr. Mercer." "Hey, didn't expect to see you again." He struggled with insulated boxes. "Sir, this is a lot of food. You throwing a party?" I smiled. "Something like that." He carried boxes into the kitchen. "Whatever you're celebrating must be pretty special." "It is," I said. "I'm celebrating being alive." I unpacked slowly, methodically, opened the old Frigidaire, empty, wiped clean, smelling of possibility. Bottom shelf, Wagyu steaks, marbled like artwork. Whole Dungeness crab on ice, bright orange. Middle shelf, aged cheese wheels, oysters glistening on the half shell. Smoked salmon, translucent pink slices. Top shelf, 4 blue tins of caviar. Russian labels gleaming. White truffle oil in glass. Foie gras in porcelain. Door shells. 3 bottles of Dumperin. Gold foil catching light. Belgian chocolate boxes stacked. Jars of olives and capers. Crisper drawer. Dragon fruit. Shocking pink. Purple mongoin, yellow passion fruit. Spiky wrap. The refrigerator was packed, every inch filled. The shelves groaned under the weight. I stepped back and looked at this monument to access this middle finger to deprivation, this catalogue of everything I'd denied myself for decades. The light glowed in the darkening kitchen, illuminating my face. "This is my inheritance," I said, to the empty room. "Mine to spend exactly how I want." I closed the door. The seal clicked softly. For the next 8 days, I lived quietly in my clean, empty house. I ate well-pansered Wagyu with truffle oil caviar on warm toast, oysters with champagne. I slept deeply on a mattress on the floor. I walked through the bare rooms and felt lighter than I had in 40 years. The house wasn't a museum anymore. It was mine. On the morning of the 8th day, I woke early, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, the only furniture left, and waited. Cleef's flight was due at 11 o'clock. She'd be home by noon. I sipped my coffee and felt nothing but calm. I was ready. 8 days had passed since I'd made my decision. 8 days of eating well, sleeping deeply, living in peaceful emptiness. The fridge remained full. The floors gleamed. Sunlight poured through bare windows. Chloe's flight landed at 11. I made proper breakfast. Scrambled eggs with smoked salmon, sourdough toast, fresh coffee. 8 days slowly at my IKEA table. The only furniture left, read the Oregonian cover to cover. At 11:45, I heard her key scrape against the lock. A pause. Confusion. It wouldn't turn. I'd changed the locks 2 days ago, but left the door unlocked. Today, waning. The handle turned. The door flew open. I'm home. Thunder of expensive luggage dragged across hardwood. Sharp heels on bare floor now without rugs to muffle them. She appeared in the doorway, artificial tan peeling at the nose, designer sunglasses and lightened hair, wrinkled white linen dress, 3 monogrammed suitcases behind her, already scrolling her phone, not looking at me. Oh my God, that flight was hell. Screaming baby the entire way. Uber driver didn't help with bags. Glanced around with vague irritation. Wait, where's this? Tabor, did you rearrange? Not really seeing, not understanding. Whatever. I'm starving. What's for lunch? I sipped my Darjeeling slowly. Set the cup down carefully. Nothing. Eye roll. Typical. I'll make a sandwich. You went shopping, right? She moved past me, toward the refrigerator, heels clicking sharp and impatient like countdown ticks. Please tell me you didn't eat everything. Hand on handle, yanked it open. Cold light hit her face. I watched her brain try to process what her eyes saw, blank incomprehension. Then the scream, high, sharp, genuine shock, mixed with fear. She stumbled back, hand to mouth, gripping the door. Phone clattered to floor screen, cracking. What? What the hell, Dad? What is this? I remained seated still, took another sip of tea. I see you found dinner. Head whipped toward me, eyes wild, makeup running from panicked sweat. Dad, what? How? Where did this come from? I folded my hands on the table. Same hands that built her, carved her name into furniture she never appreciated, held tools I'd turned into the feast, now terrifying her. Before you ask more questions, I said quietly, sit down. To understand what you're looking at, you need to know what I found while you were gone. She shook her head, backing from the fridge. I don't know, I didn't sit down. Something in my voice, something new, made her obey. I stood slowly, walked to where the red folder waited on the counter, placed there this morning, knowing this moment would come, picked it up, felt its weight, turned to face my daughter for what might be our last real conversation. What you're looking at, I said, holding up the folder, is what I bought with your inheritance. What you're about to hear is why I had every right to do it. I opened the folder, pulled out the first document. Her face went white beneath the tan. Let me show you what I found in your room. Chloe, let me show you exactly what you were planning. Cliff still gripped the caviar jar. This is mine. This was my future. Was it? I held up the red folder. Or was this my future? I slid it across the bare floor. It stopped at her feet. She looked down, recognized the red immediately. Her face, drained, the spray tan suddenly looked faint, sallow. Where did you get that? Your room under your magazines. Next to the Bellagio receipt where you spent $6,500 of my dollars. You went through my private things. You had no right. I bent, picked up the folder, opened it slowly, pulled out the brochure. Restful Meadows State Facility. Did you read the reviews? Bedbugs, understaffing, elderly people in soiled clothes for hours. That was just planning ahead. For emergencies, responsible children do that. Responsible. I pulled out the power of attorney, full authority over my property, finances, medical care, my entire life. Dieted November 15th, 3 days after your return. That's out of context. Standard elder care planning, contact. I pulled out the calendar page, read each line slowly. November 12th, return from Vegas, airplane. November 13th, Dr. M, appointment. Get Dad's quote. Evaluation, unquote. Why is evaluation, in quotes. Cliff. November 14th, meet lawyer, finalize POA. November 15th, sign POA at notary. November 16th, to Restful Meadows with Dad, parenthesis. Don't tell him why. November 20th, moving day. Box emoji like I'm furniture. Her face trapped animal. My voice cracked. 8 days. You had me scheduled for a disposal in 8 days. I pulled out the email. Your email to Restful Meadows. I'm sent 2 weeks before Vegas. Read aloud. My father, 72, showing early signs of dementia, needs immediate placement. Expected movie in late November. Please hold bet. Hands shaking. You booked my prison, then took my money and went gambling. Cliffy's voice trembled. Dad, you don't understand. The doorbell rang. We froze. Excuse me. I opened the door. Mrs. Beatrick Finley stood there, casserole dish in hand. 68, white hair, floral cardigan. Raymond, I heard shouting. Saw the scene. Pape scattered. Chloe's mascara streaking. Oh my. Behind her, Frederick Penn, grey vest, briefcase. Mr. Mercer, 12:30, as requested. I stepped aside. Come in. Who the hell are these people? Witnesses. Penn set his briefcase on the floor, opened it. Complete documentation of all sales over 10 days. Showed Chloe the pages, notarized receipts, photographs, signatures, official seals, every transaction legally valid. I can testify Mr. Mercer was of sound mind throughout. We verified this, specifically anticipating family trouble. Beatrice stepped forward, fierce, and I can testify to how you've treated your father. You don't even know me. I live upstairs. 3 years I've watched how you talk to him like he's stupid. Park in handicap spots, yell at delivery people, treat him like staff in his own home. Chloe was surrounding me at center pen with documents, Beatrick with moral authority, every exit blocked. Her panic transformed to cold calculation, face hardened. Fine, fine. Everyone wants games I can play, too. Grabbed her suitcase handle. You think you've won? I'll get my lawyer. We'll see how sound mind you are. Elderly man alone, no furniture, spending thousands on caviar. Sounds like dementia to me. dragged luggage toward door, stopped, turned. This isn't over, Dad. Not even close. But I'd prepared for this, too. Chloe, my voice was calm. Before you go, I reached into my other pocket, pulled out a small object, her apartment key, the spare I'd given her years ago, held it up. You don't live here anymore? This is my house, my name on the deed, and you're no longer welcome. Set it on the floor between us. Leave the key you used to get in. Both of them. Her mouth opened, closed. You're kicking me out. I'm setting a boundary, something I should have done years ago. She stared at me like I'd struck her, then her face twisted. She dug in her purse, threw both keys on the floor. They clattered loud in the empty house. Fine, keep your empty house and your stupid caviar. When you're dying alone, don't call me. She yanked the door open, slammed it so hard the frame shook. Silence. Beatrice touched my arm gently. Raymond, are you all right? I looked at the keys on the floor. The red folder, the witness's hood, stood with me. Yes, I said. For the first time in years, I'm all right. Close cycled through manipulation tactics fast. Tactic 1. Legal threats. You can't kick me out. I have legal rights as your daughter. I'll sue for elder abuse, financial exploitation. I stayed calm. With what evidence? Mr. Penn has documentation proving my competence. You have an emoji calendar proving you're a sociopath. Penn nodded. I'd strongly advise against litigation, Miss Mercer. That calendar alone would destroy any case. Tactic 2. Guilt. Chloe's voice broke artificially. Mum would be disappointed. She'd want you to forgive me. She always said family means forgiveness. I flinched. Still loved Martha's memory, but recovered. Don't you dare use Martha's name. She told me to live, not be anyone's doormat, not even yours. Mum wanted family together no matter what. Family doesn't secretly book nursing home beds. Tactic 3. Victim. Where am I supposed to go? I have no money. You have whatever you didn't spend in Vegas. That's my money. That was my pension check. Go possess somewhere else. Tactic 4. Little girl. Chloe collapsed to the floor, mascara streaming. Daddy, please, I'm sorry. I'm your little girl. You can't throw me away like garbage. Old instincts surged. I looked at the red folder, saw the calendar. Move-in day. Deep breath. Stand up, Chloe. She looked up hopefully. Your suitcases are packed. Convenient. I walked to the drawer, pulled out a yellow envelope. New keys. I changed the locks yesterday at 8 a.m. before your flight landed. You planned this as carefully as you planned to institutionalize me. You handed her the envelope. $500 cash. More than you left me. She opened it. Furious. 500. Are you kidding? 500 more than I owe you? She stood, all pretense gone. Pure venom. You're going to regret this. You're 72. What happens when you fall? When you can't wipe your ass? Who takes care of you? Nobody. I'll take care of myself. Beatrix stepped forward. And he has real friends, neighbors who care. Chloe grabbed her suitcase, dragged it to the door, turned back. Eat your _caviar, Dad. Eat lots. I hope you choke. And when you're dying and calling for help, remember you chose caviar over your daughter, things over family. Stormed into the rain. Car door slammed. Engine. Tires on wet pavement. Gone. I walked to the door, turned the deadbolt, clicked hand on the door for a long moment. Empty. Victory. Relief. Grief. All mixed. Beatrice touched my shoulder. You did the right thing. The only thing. Penn packed his briefcase. 40 years of estate sales. Countless families. This was necessary. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Thank you, I finally said, for standing with me. Beatrice squeezed my shoulder. I'll check tomorrow. Bring real food, not caviar. Soft smile. Penn shook my hand. Any legal trouble? Call, immediately. They left, closing the door quietly. I stood alone in my empty house, made tea, sat at my IKEA table. The silence was different, not oppressive, peaceful. I ate Wagyu that night, pan-seared with butter, drank water from a wine glass, went to bed early, slept deeply. Next morning, woke to sunlight, made coffee, read the paper. Day 2, walked to the library, checked out books I'd wanted to read for years. Day 3, Beatrice came with chicken soup. We sat at my table, talked about Martha, about life. She didn't judge, just listened. That night, I fell asleep feeling something I hadn't felt in years. On the morning of day 4, my phone rang at 7 a.m., a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Is this Raymond Mercer? A woman's voice, young, hesitant. Yes, I'm calling. From Cohen News, we received information about a viral social media post involving you and your daughter. We'd like to get your side of the story. My stomach dropped. What post? You haven't seen it. It's been shared over 50,000 times in the last 12 hours. I hung up. The phone immediately rang again. Different number. Then again. It didn't stop. The first 3 days after Chloe left, I adapted to solitude. The house was quiet, peaceful. Sunlight poured through bare windows. I ate well. Crab salad for lunch, wagyu for dinner, caviar on toast for breakfast. Beatrice visited daily with soup. For the first time in years, I slept 8 full hours. I felt peace, no burden, freedom. On the morning of day 4, urgent knocking shattered that peace. Beatrix stood at my door, iPad in trembling hands. Raymond, you need to see this now. She pushed into the kitchen and turned the screen toward me. A GoFundMe page filled the display. Help me rebuild after my father abandoned me. Goal, $15,000. Raise $3,200 in 12 hours. The photo showed Chloe on a curb, disheveled, holding cardboard, homeless and hungry. Please help. Her story claimed I'd kicked her out without warning. Sold family heirlooms, her inheritance, to fund luxury. That, while she starved on streets, I ate caviar and drank champagne. I'd changed the locks, left her, nowhere to go. A video showed her crying in a cheap motel. I don't understand what I did to deserve this. He just threw me away like I was nothing. 127 comments, all outraged. Calling me a monster, donating $50, $100, 847 Facebook shares already. I stared, face draining. This isn't true. Man of it. I gave her $500. Beatrice scrolled grimly. There's more. TikTok, same. Crying. Chloe text dancing. My dad chose caviar over his own daughter. Hashtags about trauma and abuse. 1.2 million views. 45,000 shares. Comments demanding people find me. Cancel me. Instagram. Same story, different angle. 3,400 likes. 890 comments. The hands shook. How do I make people know she's lying? They don't, Beatrice said quietly. They just see a crying young woman. That's all they need. My phone rang. Unknown number. A male voice that you should be ashamed. What kind of father are you? I hung up, trembling. It rang again. Different number. A woman equally furious. I hope you die alone, you selfish garbage. Hung up again. Voicemails showed 17 messages. My laptop. 43 emails. You're disgusting. Shame on you. How do you sleep at night, you monster? Day 5. Someone threw eggs at my house. Yolk dripped down the cedar siding I'd installed 40 years ago. Neighbors looked at me with disgust while walking dogs. One crossed the street to avoid me. Day 6 morning. A news van parked outside Coin 6 Portland. A reporter knocked persistently, asking for my side of the viral story. Overwhelmed, I said. No comment. Please leave. Close the door. That evening, I watched the coverage on my laptop. Portland's father accused of abandoning daughter to fund luxury lifestyle. Footage of my house. Anonymous interview with Chloe. Clips from her TikTok. No mention of the nursing home plot. The power of attorney. The email before Vegas. Nothing. I sat on the bare living room floor, no furniture left, and held my head. How do I fight this? How do you fight lies that spread this fast? Beatrice sat beside me on the bare floor, her presence solid in a world suddenly surreal. We fight fire with fire, Raymond, she said quietly. But we fight with truth, not lies. And I know exactly how to do it. Desplat, come upstairs. I need to show you something important. I followed her up, confused. Her apartment door opened. I stopped. At the threshold, stunned. An entire corner was a professional setup. Ring light on adjustable stand. Blue Yeti microphone on. Boom arm. MacBook Pro with external monitor. Camera on tripod. Editing equipment. Sound dampening panels. Beta trick. What? What is all this? She smiled. I run a YouTube channel. Beatrix Quilting Corner. 52,000 subscribers showed me her screen. Professional channel. Hundreds of videos. quilting thumbnails. I was shocked. You're a YouTuber. Internet's not just for young people. Raymond, haven't you learned that? And we're going to use my platform to tell your truth. The plan: create a response video with all evidence. Post on Beatrix's established channel. Built-in audience. Share across all platforms. Let truth spread faster than lies. Gathering evidence. Vegas hotel receipt. Bellagio. Total $6,500. Power of attorney draft with Chloe's handwritten margin notes. Calendar page with emoji timeline. Printed email to Restful Meadows. All notarized sales documents from Mr. Penn. Raymond's bank statements showing pension deposits. Photo of empty oatmeal jar. I'd saved it as evidence somehow, knowing it's recruiting allies. I called Penn. Frederick, I need you on camera to testify on my behalf. No hesitation. Absolutely. When and where? Tomorrow afternoon? 2 p.m. day. P7 afternoon scripting session. Beatrice coached me. Guy is dignity. Don't be angry though, you have every right. Be sad but strong. Quiet strength is what people respond to. I practice. Take 1, 2, angry, defensive. Take 2, too sad, victim-like. Take 3, too factual. Emotion. Take 7, perfect. Exactly that. That's it. Daypots, 8:02 p.m. filming. I sat in good light, plain wall background, neat cardigan, Beatrice behind camera. Just talk to me like we're having coffee. Forget the camera. Video content. Total. Runtime, 12:43. Opening. I look straight at camera. My name is Raymond Mercer. I'm 72. Retired carpenter. My daughter told you I abandoned her. I want to tell you the truth. Part 1. Money held up Vegas receipt. This is what my daughter spent in 2 weeks while I had no food. $6,500. Nearly 3 months of my pension. Part 2. The plan showed POIA draft. This is what she planned to do when she returned. Read key sections slowly. Showed calendar page. These are her exact words, in her handwriting. Read each day. Explained emoji meanings. Showed nursing home. Email. She booked me a bed 2 weeks before taking my money, before leaving me to starve. Part 3. The diagnosis. In the email, she claims I have early dementia. I don't. I've never been diagnosed with dementia, but she needed a medical reason to justify locking me away. Part 4. Penn's testimony. Penn stepped into frame professional. I'm Frederick Penn, licensed antiques dealer for 40 years. I can personally confirm Mr. Mercer was completely sound of mind in all our transactions. Every sale was properly notarized specifically because I suspected family trouble. Showed notary documents to camera. Part 5. Raymond's closing. I don't want your money. I don't want pithy. I want my dignity back. I want other parents, other elders, to know you don't owe your life to children who don't value it. Setting boundaries isn't abandonment, it's survival, it's choosing to live. Final shot. Raymond's weathered face, tired but dignified. Thank you for hearing my truth. Upload DAT. 6 p.m. Beatrix YouTube. The truth about my daughter's story. Full evidence included. Thumbnail, split screen. Raymond's solemn face versus Chloe's crying face. Description links to Restful Meadows. Reviews, elder abuse, resources, tags, truth, family story. Portland evidence match. GoFundMelder writes, Beatrice hovered over publish, looked at me. Ready? Ready? Click the spread hour. 1. 200 views. Are worried. Is that good? Betrick, give it time. Truth spreads but in its own way. Hour 3. 5 all views. Comments filling. Wait. What? Everyone needs to see. Minute 430. With a calendar. She really used emoji to plan institutionalizing her father. This changes everything. Our 650,000 views. Reddit post on our Raised by Narcissists. Portland dad exposes daughter's nursing home plot. Full evidence. 12,000 upvotes in 3 hours. 890 comments. Top comment. 8K upvotes. That emoji calendar is genuinely sociopathic. Who does that? Hour 12. Morning day 9,300,000 views. Twitter. Trending Yaka. Portland. Dad caviar. Dad journalist starting to repost TikTok duets. People filming reactions while watching Hour 24. 1.22 million views. Comments over 15.00. This is the plot twist of the century. Wholly underscore that daughter should be in jail. His man is a hero for standing up for himself. Portland, we need to support this man. Everyone who donated to her GoFundMe needs to see this. Hour 36. Local news update. Same reporter now, at Raymond's door. Mr. Mercer, we'd like to do a follow-up interview if you're willing. This time. Yes, I'll talk to you. Call in 6 Evening News. Breaking viral father-daughter story takes dramatic turn. Evidence reveals elaborate plot. Showed clips from Raymond's video. Interviewed Beatrice. He's the kindest, gentlest man. What she planned to do to him was unspeakably cruel. Hour 48. Evening Day, Patch 9. 2.4 million views. GoFundMe response platform emailed. Chloe Raymond learned later, your campaign flagged for violating our terms of service fraudulent claims. Campaign closed effective immediately. All donations $200 total refunded to donors within 7 business days. Raymond's phone now rang constantly, but this time, old union carpenter buddies. Ray, you old dog. You're all over the internet. Proud of you. Neighbor Mrs. Williams. We always knew something was off with that girl. Complete strangers. Thank you for sharing your story. You gave my mother courage to leave my toxic aunt's house. I watched the view counter climb in real time. 2004. 50,000. 2,460,000. Beatrice beside me. Today, truth won. Raymond. Doesn't always, but today it did. 1 week after video day. Plus 14. Chloe's forced apology video appeared hastily, made clearly scripted. Title: My statement regarding recent events. 47. Think or dislikes. 2 + 3 likes. I apologize if my actions were misunderstood. My father and I had different perspectives. I was stressed and perhaps didn't handle things ideally. I apologize if anyone felt deceived. All ifs. No accountability. Top comment. She's only sorry she got caught. I watched once, closed it. Never again. Private email. Same day from KHLOEM1986@gmail.com. You humiliated me to millions. I had to delete every social media account. People spit on me. I paid back $8,000. Mom would forgive me. Don't you love me anymore? I stared at the screen. Beatrice read over my shoulder. What will you say? The truth one last time. My reply. Chloe, I'll always love the little girl at age 7 in my workshop who cried with me when we buried your mother. But I cannot accept the woman you've become. You didn't make mistakes. You planned to declare me incompetent and lock me away. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Your mother would want me to live, to stand up for myself. I hope someday you'll become better, but I won't be there to see it. Goodbye. Your father hovered over. Send. You're sure. Never more sure. Click. 3 weeks later. Day +35. Mrs. Williams. I heard your daughter left Portland. Phoenix, maybe Arizona, somewhere. I nodded, relief mixed with sadness. It's finally over. 1 month later. Day +44. Epilogue. My house transformed. Minimalist by choice. Now, not poverty. Martha's photo on the mantle. IKEA furniture. For my choicest PA's plant. Beatrice gave me 2 kitchen chairs for when she visits. Light, airy, peaceful morning routine. Coffee on porch at 7 a.m. Emma from Zook Ponds waves. Mrs. Williams brings homemade pho for our neighborhood hero. You inspired my sister to leave her terrible son's house. Podcast interview. PDX Resilient Stories invited me. Host Sarah Williams asked, what would you tell others facing similar situations? You don't owe anyone your life, not even family who see you as an obstacle. Do you regret cutting off your daughter? I regret it became necessary, but I don't regret doing it. There's a difference. What's next? I spent 70 years building for others. Now I'm building something just for myself. A peaceful life. It's never too late to start. After podcast at Barista Cafe, a woman approached. Your Raymond from the video, eyes welling. Your story gave my mother courage to leave my abusive brother. She's living with me now. Happy, because of you. Squeezed my hand tight. I felt seen, valued, purposeful. Final scene. Front porch rain. Gentle Portland drizzle. Wicker chair. Empty coffee cup. My reflection. I spent 72 years building for others. Houses, furniture, a life for my daughter. But I forgot to build a life for myself. The caviar wasn't luxury or revenge. It was saying I matter. My hunger matters. My dignity matters. Am I lonely sometimes? Yes. Do I miss who I hoped she'd become? Yes. But I don't miss the ghost I was 3 months ago. The man who forgot he was allowed to live. Martha said, "Promise me you'll live." Ray, don't. Just exist. It took 72 years in an empty oatmeal jar to understand. I'm living now. Finally living to you. What are you holding on to that's holding you back? What are you sacrificing for someone who won't thank you? Sometimes the most valuable thing you can leave behind is the belief you had to sacrifice yourself. If this touched you, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Share your story. We're not alone. Subscribe. Your support helps stories like mine reach people who need them. Remember, it's never too late to choose yourself. Thank you for listening, and thank you for reminding an old man that he still matters. Final limits me on porch. Gentle rain, small genuine smile, coffee cup on chair arm, rain sounds, distant traffic, life continuing. Complete peace, fade to black. Sitting in this empty house flooded with sunlight and a silence that finally feels clean, I've realized a hard truth. This is a true story of betrayal. But more importantly, it is a true story of reclamation. My advice to any parent listening is simple. Don't be like me. Don't confuse silence with patience or enagering with love. I spent decades building a museum of memories, only to realize I was housing a stranger who saw me as an obstacle rather than a father. Don't wait until you're being scheduled for disposal like an old piece of furniture to find your voice. They aren't just grandpa's stories meant to entertain. They are warnings. The lesson I've learned is that your dignity is not negotiable, even for family. God knows I tried to provide everything, but I failed to provide boundaries. Setting a limit isn't abandonment, it's survival. This true story proves that blood doesn't give anyone a license to destroy your soul. I hope these grandpa stories serve as a shield for those feeling forgotten. We must value ourselves enough to demand respect, or we risk becoming footnotes in someone else's selfish agenda. Let my grandpa's stories remind you that it is never too late to stand up and choose to live on your own terms.